I've been wanting to do a video for a while to talk about the Marine Corps. Um, I've got sons of my own who are getting of age to sign up for the military, and I think one of them actually will pursue that as a career, and that would be fantastic. Let me start off by saying that I joined the Marine Corps for a lot of reasons, but I guess mostly because I felt like I had something to prove. Um, when I was younger, I read Robert Frost's The Path Not Taken, and he talks about how, I took the path less traveled by, and it's made all the difference. When I was 20 years old, I actually got out of high school and went to college for a while and did not know what I wanted to do. I went to college to be an engineer. I wanted to be a civil engineer and design bridges. And I had a class that was construct of constructions. And it basically talked to you about how you're going to get sued as a contractor. And it talks about how you need to subcontract as much work as you can so that when you get sued, you have less to blame or whatever. And I got disenfranchised by that. I thought, well, what a bunch of crap. I mean, I grew up working construction with my papa, who started out with a tractor and built himself a business doing foundations and footings and putting in septic tanks, and then he learned to subcontract other work and became a general contractor building houses and subdivisions. And I like that hands-on stuff, but everybody kept telling me college, college, college. Well, college wasn't for me. Sitting in a class, it just wasn't for me. So, like a knucklehead, I worked, and I worked 7 days a week, from before the sun came up till after the sun went down. I worked as many jobs as I could to take up every spare minute of my time. And I still wasn't feeling fulfilled. I still wasn't feeling like I was achieving what I needed to achieve. I decided to go in the military. Me and a buddy of mine, I'm not going to reveal his name because he backed out on me, but we went in on the buddy deal. We started talking to an Army recruiter. Oh yeah, we're going to join the Army, man. We're going to learn to do all kinds of cool stuff and go around and see the world. And don't that sound cool? Well, Mr. Buddy of mine, he goes over and starts talking to the Marine Corps recruiter. And he's like, man, he said, I got to tell you, you got to come talk to this guy. So I went over and talked to him, and right away I was impressed. Right away I thought, here's a guy that talks like me, who's not trying to sell me a bunch of crap. The Army guys were acting like used car salesmen. Oh man, come on in. Here, let me get you something to drink, man. You from around here, man? There's like four guys stumbling over me, eager for me to buy whatever it was they were selling. I walked into the Marine Corps office. He's kicked back in his PT gear with his feet on the desk, talking on the phone. Very strong, very determined in what he was saying. And all he was just saying hello to somebody. He wasn't selling the Marine Corps. He didn't try to sell me on the Marine Corps. He just talked to me. He's like, hey man, how's it going? And then just started talking. And this went on for a while. Me just coming in and talking to him. And I told him that I was considering joining the Army. And that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to find that out. But I just knew that college wasn't for me at the time. And the more we talked, the more he told me. He said, I recruit kids all the time. Young men and women who, want to join the service for one reason or the other. And there's a special place, in every branch for them. He said, but for me, I don't recruit Marines. Marines find me. He said, there's just something about some individuals that are different. Whether it's a chip on their shoulder or something they got to prove, or they're just, there's just something about them, you know. And he said, I'm not here to tell you one thing or another, but, you know, you'll see what I mean. And he never tried to recruit me. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I don't know. I had this buddy named Steve, that I was buddies with in high school, and he came home from boot camp, and he kind of looked like a robot, and I'm like, I ain't gonna do that. Ain't for me. No. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, it's a big scary world out there. And the Army is the largest force. They got a lot of people. I don't want to go in the Navy because you've never seen a good movie about a submarine. It's always, the submarine's going down, they're taking on water, and they're like, quick, close the hatch. And some guy named Jimmy's, no, wait. Jimmy. I don't want to be on a submarine, so I stay away from the Navy. I didn't realize it until after I joined the Marine Corps that they are a department of the Navy, and as such, I could be deployed to be on a submarine. Shocker. Yeah. Oh well. But anyway, so I decided to join. And I told my stepdad, who had been in the Air Force, and his first comment was, "You're not going to go in the Marine Corps. You're too soft." Well, that was all the motivation I needed. I was like, well, yeah? Watch me. And I did it. There were guys there, bigger, stronger, faster. They'd fall out. Guys that you'd think would make it couldn't do it. They wanted to go home. I ain't doing it. I don't know. I guess I'm stubborn. Every time I was faced with a task, I decided it was my job to overcome that task. As you move up in rank, they teach you leadership qualities. One of the best leadership qualities I ever learned was know yourself and seek self-improvement. Wherever you're the weakest is what you need to work on the most. Well, I knew right away that I was not a good runner. I had a hard time even running to get in. You have to run a certain time to even get in the Marine Corps, and I had a hard time passing that test. So I decided I would run all the time. I'd run as much as I could. And I ran and ran. I'd run to work several miles. I'd run home from work several miles. I'd run at work several miles. I got to where I'd run around the base 13.5 miles on a weekly basis. And it was great exercise. And I became faster and faster at running. I became more proficient at running, and thusly my body was all shaped up. I mean, I'm 5'8" in a fraction, and at the time I was 170 pounds, and I looked like I was carved out of wood. Of course, now I've been out since '98, and it's 2012, so I've been out 14 years, and I look like my body's been carved out of biscuits because I've been eating a lot of biscuits. But I've earned that right. I'm an old man now. I'm getting to be an old man. You can't tell from all these gray hairs. But because I was in, I get a lot of young men asking me, what's it like? I want to join the Marine Corps. What's it like? And I don't know what's brought them to that conclusion that they think that the Marine Corps is what they want. But let me tell you, before you join, understand that the Marine Corps, every man is a rifleman. Every man that joins, no matter what your job is supposed to be in the Marine Corps, your first job is to grab a rifle, point it downrange, and kill the bad guy before he kills you. That's it. In the Army, yes, you have a job. The Navy, yes, you have a job. Air Force, same thing. Now, the Army does have a lot of guys that will get right in front of the bad guys, and if you've ever played chess, you call those pawns. Well, the Marine Corps is also pawns, but they're trained on a daily basis how to kill. The Army, I don't want to take anything away from Army. I mean, I got a brother-in-law that was Army Special Forces, and he's pretty badass. I mean, but still, across the board, I'd take a Marine with me any day. There's just something different about it. I can't explain it. Um, you know, if you're thinking of joining, that's fine. Ask yourself, what do you want out of this? What do you want to get out of this? I mean, are you wanting to get in for 4 years, go overseas, you know, shoot at bad guys, you know, be a hero? That's great. Be infantry. Do it. You know, heroes are not dreamed up. They just happen. People grab the whatever it is inside of them, and they find a way to overcome any obstacle. That's why we have parades for them. That's why we get all teary when we're on TV and we're all pledging allegiance. The veterans are the ones that have tears in their eyes, not the civilians. The veterans are the one that gets pissed off when you're talking on your cell phone during the Pledge of Allegiance or during the national anthem. I didn't understand what patriotism was when I was a kid. Really didn't. I pledged allegiance all the time, because you're supposed to. You're taught to as a kid. I didn't know what it meant, though. I didn't know what patriotism meant until I joined the Marine Corps. Until I saw men lose their life. And it wasn't for whatever policy is in office or for whoever the president is. It's for the guy next to him. It's because you have something you're supposed to do, and you all do it together, and you try to come out of it safe. It's kind of odd because when you go to boot camp, and you go to further training, safe is not really a word that you use. I mean, it's kind of mentioned, but it's laughed at. It's like, if you wanted safety, you would join the Army or, Navy. I always tell my son that I want him to go in the Navy because he could be on a boat. Nobody wants the boat shot at. They're going to keep the boat really far away from danger and have great big guns that shoot at the bad guy. And if that don't work, they got planes on there that can fly off the boat and land on the boat. I mean, if you want to get in and learn a trade, something you can do when you get out, that's great. Join the Navy, be a medic, be a dentist, do something with computers, be air traffic controller, be whatever. Join the Air Force, do any number of jobs that have to do with computers or, any of the services, be an MP. When you get out, study your criminal law, get out and be a police officer. I mean, it is what you make of it. No matter what service you join, there is the opportunity for you to go to college, pretty much for free. There are satellite programs everywhere. They charge a minimal fee for you to take classes. You can take them over satellite. You can take them over the internet. You can get a degree in the military. I advise I always tell my wife, I said, if it were me, every young man who graduates high school should have to serve the military at least 4 years. I don't care what branch. But it teaches you how to be respectful, how to follow orders, how to be organized, and how to look out for one another. Nowadays you get a lot of kids that are raised by their TV or, internet, some crap they watch on something on MTV, this is how life is. No, it's not. You're wrong. There's a lot of wrong in this world, not enough right. And it seems like when you say the right thing, people go, well, that's not right. Everybody's got something smart to say. Look, we're on this earth for one thing. Take care of one another. Love one another. Somewhere along the way we get selfish and we get greedy. The sins of the world take over our life and make us think, that we're supposed to do other things and hurt one another and take from one another and want from one another. I'm saying that's wrong. And if I'm wrong for saying it, tough. That's another luxury of being a Marine, is you can tell people, tough, this is what's right. Now, you ain't got to be a Marine to do that, but let me tell you, it helps. when I was younger, I used to be afraid of a lot of things. And during my time in the service, I learned not to be afraid of a lot of things. I learned to be pretty much fearless. And it's not until now that my kids are old enough to join the Marine Corps or join the service, of whatever service, that I have fear. And I don't want to say that I'm afraid they'll join the service and get killed, because that happens, and I understand that. But I got out of the military to be a single dad, and I got them when they were 4 and 2. And for 3 years, I raised them by myself. And every owie and every boo-boo and every thing that they needed done, I did. And as a father, it's hard to let go. And it's hard to say, I believe in you, do it, good luck. But you got to, that's the natural progression. But there's a young man here on YouTube who contacted me in a message. And he said that he was very interested in joining the Marine Corps and heard that I was in and wanted to know more. And, you know, if the Marine Corps is the path for you, then don't back down. Do it 110%. You know? If you want more information, just ask around. Get guys to talk to you. Anybody that's ever been in any service will talk to you about their experience. They'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know. Field days every Thursday. Got to clean up. There's a certain way to lace your boots. There's only one way to lace your boots. There's only one way to sit on the floor. You learn a lot of interesting things. And you learn that things have a certain order to them. You learn chain of command. You know, the biggest thing that I miss after being out for 14 years is I miss that sense of urgency that people had. And I miss that chain of command. I miss being able to talk to one guy and say, this is what needs to be done. And him taking care of it. You know, out here in the private sector, when you're working for Joe Schmo's company, you tell them something needs to be done, they don't do it. Well, everybody rolls their eyes like, well, I don't know, I just didn't get to it today. You know, in the Marine Corps, it's get this done. Yes, sir. Can you get it done? You don't, there's no, well, we just ran out of time today. You just do it. You figure out a way, you do it. You adapt and overcome. You know. Anywho, I told this young man that I would give him a YouTube response, and it's been several weeks. Because I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know how to go about saying it. If you want to know any more information, feel free to ask me. I'll respond. Yeah, I got a boy right now who's 17 years old. He's got one more year of high school. He told me a while back he wanted to be a Marine Corps sniper. I'd taken him out shooting, and he shoots great. I mean, I used to teach guys on the rifle range how to shoot, so I was used to teaching them. And I set him up, let him shoot. He shot perfect. Every weapon he fired, he shot great. And he, you know, plays video games and all those combat video games. And he's like, I really want to be a Marine Corps sniper. And I said, well, you know what, son? There are special people in this world that God has given them the gift of pulling the trigger. And if that happens to be you, then that's great. Go for it. You know. There are a lot of people out there that can't pull the trigger. And that's fine. You know, to take another man's life, that's a big commitment. It's also pretty dangerous because you could be killed. But when you're younger, you know, you feel like you're invincible and that nothing can hurt you, and that you can run through brick walls and overcome anything. And in a way, you know, you kind of can. But just remember, you're still squishy. And bullets will still squish you. Those bombs that go off, you know, on the side of the road. And I'm sure you see a lot of that on TV now. Old homeboy's driving his Humvee down the road, and next thing you know, they're all walking around with false limbs back here. That's part of it. War's not pretty. Just ask yourself, what do you want out of joining the military? Do you want a 20-year career? Do you want to hit the ground running? Do you want to be in a tank? Do you want to fly? You can do anything. It's just a matter of deciding what you want to do and going after it. You know, do you want to be part of the support group? You know, force service support. You go in, you learn how to do all the background stuff that helps the guys on the front lines stay going. You know, you could work in supply. You could work in an office somewhere, you know, handling their paperwork. You could be a part of the training group that teaches people how to survive in a chemical warfare environment. You could work with computers and learn how to operate those drones and, you know, do flyovers and stuff with these little drone planes. That's pretty cool. There's all kind of stuff you can do, but you got to ask yourself, after I get done playing soldier, what am I going to do when I get out? Because when I got out, I wasn't really qualified to do much but pull a trigger. Which is fine. You know, I adapted, I overcame. I got a CDL. You know, it all worked out for me, but I'm just saying, if I were to give advice to somebody, not knowing who they are or anything, I would tell them to join one of the services, I don't care which one, and learn to do something along the way that you can do when you get out to make money. You don't want those 4 years to just chalk up as military experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. You get out and you've got military experience, buddy, they're willing to hire you because they know that you take orders and they know that you want to do a good job. So, I think that's it. If you want to know more, just ask me. Here we go. Hope that helps.